Mike Stoops enters his 6th year, 8-5 last year, 13 returning starters. They lose Willie Tuiatama, the quarterback, and Mike Thomas, who set the reception record for the Pac-10 last year. They got Grigsby back, Nick Grigsby, the running back, and they bring back Gronkowski, a big tight end for them. You know, high expectations. He showed what he could do.
Well, with that veteran team, all around offense and defense. Offensive side, you look at, they have the Grigsby, 1,100 yards, 13 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, a real good guy back there. Matt Scott has to replace Tuatama, so that's the question mark. But at least he has a security blanket with that big NFL tight end Rob Gronkowski. He's a man. Terrell Turner is another good receiver. The LaShawn Dean, another good receiver. He's explosive. So they have some weapons on offense. I like the way they have a big old line. They average 6'4", 320 across the board. That is huge. That can wear down the defense with the running game.
That's what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to get back to that Desert Swarm defense, as you've been mentioning, what you're raving about, and run the ball. Nick Grigsby, they're not really a high potent team and experience at quarterback. They lose Joe Longanker and, of course, Eben Britton, who got drafted in the 2nd round by Jacksonville. Defensively, 4 returning starters on the defensive line. Stop the run the ball. This is going to be their key.
That's the most important thing. If you can do that, you can win a lot of games. But I look at the fact that I love their secondary. They're real strong in the secondary with Devin Ross, 3 interceptions last season. The linebackers are 3 seniors. So they got the leadership and they want to go out with a bang. And your linebackers are usually your leaders on your defense. So I like the fact they do have that, with Xavier Kelly, Sterling Lewis, awesome players, So I love their defense. The D-line needs to come alive. They have to generate some pass rush. But you look at Stoops, he's a defensive guy. I expect them to get that defensive line back up the park.
Adam Hall, cornerback also. What is this? Arizona Cornerback University. Chris McAllister, Kayson a couple of years ago. They breed them as cornerbacks at Arizona. At a conference, interesting. Host Central Michigan. Watch out, Dan Lefevre. He can move, and they're at Iowa. Interesting Pac-10, Big Ten. 3 of the last 4 is on the road, and they got the 2 best teams on the road, Cal and Berkeley, and USC on the road.
For what they're trying to do in Arizona, they have a favorable schedule. It should be a good year in Tucson.
Oregon State, led by Coach Mike Riley in his 9th year, 10 returning starters, 9-4, 7 players drafted to the NFL. Oregon State was a good team last year, just inconsistent. They had the talent. Of course, LeVitre gone. They lose Shamie Stroud, one of their big wide receivers. It's going to be a question mark. Where's the wide receivers going to come from? They still got James Rodgers and his brother Jaquiz Rodgers at tailback. And Lyle Moival comes back at experienced quarterback, gets jobs done.
Their offense can be explosive this year, and it should be explosive. They get 7 starters back. Jaquiz Rodgers, 1,300 yards, 11 touchdowns. I like the little guy. He can run, he can move, make people miss it. He's a tough little character. Lyle Moival. That guy is a leader. He led them guys against USC. I love his leadership. He's 5'11", 200 pounds. He's maybe a little bit shorter than you expect, but he can really throw the ball around the field.
One returning starter on the defensive line. This team is great against the run, but when it comes to pass rush, they've been inept. Defensive backs, 0 returning starter. Question marks on defense for Riley.
Well, they gave up too many big plays last season, and that was the downfall. They'll be in a lot of games, but the defense used to let them down late. They have the starters group, though, is linebacker Keaton Kirstick. Real good linebacker. I like him. That's the start of that defense. If he can rally, get those other guys to rally around him and get focused on stopping people, they'll be fine.
At a conference, they travel to UNLV. Watch out, UNLV won at Arizona State last year. They host Cincinnati, a Big East team that has no defense left. And, of course, just like Arizona, they travel to Berkeley against Cal, and they're at USC. But a good thing, they host UCLA.
Well, they go to UNLV September 12th, and they have USC on the road. So those are 2 big games that I'm looking at.
Middle of the pack team, Oregon, the crosstown rivals, Jeremiah Masoli. I mean, people forgot about Dennis Dixon real fast, especially after they took advantage of Oklahoma State last year. Of course, they lose Jeremiah Johnson, the burner. They bring in the big back, the JUCO transfer from Florida. His first year there last year. Now it's his 2nd year, LeGarrette Blount.
LeGarrette Blount is a big guy, 6'2", 240. Rushed for had 7.3 yards a carry and 17 touchdowns. Impressive. That is ridiculous. Also, you look at Masoli, 13 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Real smart decision maker with the football. He's going to keep that team moving down the field, moving the chains. And then tight end Ed Dixon is a real tough player. Keep an eye on him.
One returning starter on the offensive line. We should have mentioned the Ducks have a new coach, Chip Kelly, who was their offensive coordinator formerly of New Hampshire. Mike Bellotti out. He's the AD. He's retired. It seems like when Bellotti left, a bunch of guys are leaving. But let's see if Chip Kelly could keep them happy in Oregon and keep them coming there. They're going the JUCO way. Defensively, Casey Matthews, Spencer Pasinger, Bryson Littlejohn, a JUCO. That's a linebacker core right there.
One thing that is a weird statistic is the fact they gave up 28 points a game, but only allowed 3.1 yards a carry. So teams threw on them. But they do have a good defensive back in Walter Thurman. I like him. 5 interceptions on the defensive line. Will Tuakafo, pass rush off the edge. Those two big guys on defense, they have to show up that defensive front, though.
Walter Thurman and T.J. Ward need to step up in the secondary because they need to replace highly round draft picks Jarris Bird to Buffalo and Patrick Chung. Underrated safety, got drafted by New England. Out of conference, interesting. At Boise, host Purdue, and host Utah before getting into Pac-10 play.
First game of the season at Boise, that'll be the tell of the tape for the Oregon Ducks for the rest of the season.
The Stanford Cardinal. Jim Harbaugh in his 3rd year, the former Michigan quarterback and NFL great. 17 starters back. Andrew Luck, redshirt freshman, slated to start. But remember, Tavita Pritchard threw that unbelievable touchdown when Stanford was about 40-point underdogs to beat USC in USC. He's there to back him up. Toby Gerhardt, he's not going to play baseball. He's back in the saddle, running back. Gear up for this guy and load up because he's a house. 235.
While you look at Andrew Luck, Harbaugh loves this guy. He raves about him. He said he will be the starter, so look for Luck to be the starter out there, redshirt freshman. Toby Gerhardt, you look at 1,100 yards last season, 15 touchdowns. Their top 3 wide receivers return, so that's going to help out Luck as well, too. They got a good running back, talented receivers. You look at the offensive line, they got a veteran offensive line. The redshirt freshman, though, David DeCastro is a newbie, but he is talented, so watch out for Stanford on offense. J.R.
Patterson, wide receiver, and Gaffney, those are playmakers, need to step up. Defensive line is strong, led by Ikem Yadofia, and I like a guy in their secondary, reminds me of Jamie Silva, the former safety at Boston College, Bo McNally.
One thing about that defense, their pass defense has to improve. They gave up 63% completion percentage to opposing quarterbacks. Also, they allowed 27 points a game. That has to improve, pick up right away. I do like Bo McNally, 4 interceptions last year, and Ikem Yadofia, big guy in the middle.
They play 7 teams this year who had bowl wins last year at a conference at Wake Forest and Notre Dame. They host Notre Dame, but their last 3 is at USC, host Cal, and they host Notre Dame. It's going to be a brutal schedule down the stretch for the Cardinal.
Stanford could be 4-0 heading to that game against UCLA at October 3rd.